seems to be,
Okay, we're good.
there we go. It's going to work now. Okay. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Joint CPO event for CPOs 1, 4K, 7, 8, 10, and 13. And we have people live in Kenton Grange, and then we have a number of people attending online via Zoom. And I'm the chair of CPO 1, Virginia Bruce, and I like to start the meeting with a land acknowledgement. And so I'm going to quickly do that, and then we'll move on to our presenters. We acknowledge the people on whose land we live, the Atfalidi Kalapuyans, also known as the Tualatin Band of Kalapuyans, the first inhabitants of Washington County. We are grateful for the land we are on, Kalapuyan land. Signers of the Willamette Valley Treaty of 1855 were removed from their homelands to the Grand Ronde Indian Reservation. Today, their descendants are tribal members of Grand Ronde and Celeste tribe, carrying on the traditions and cultures of their ancestors. We acknowledge and express gratitude for the ancestors of this place and recognize that we are here because of the sacrifices forced upon them. In remembering these communities, we honor their legacies, their lives, and their continuation in our community. I'd like to invite all of us to reflect on the role government has played in the painful colonial history and reflect as well on the resilience and healing of the Indigenous land and community. We invite everyone to collaborate and work together with the tribes to take care of the land and water and the people who inhabit these spaces. And with that, we're going to have short presentations from Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue and from the Washington County Sheriff's Office. And I don't know who wants to go first. I guess Tabitha?
Perfect. Thank you for having me. I'll keep this very brief. I'm Tabitha. I'm with Washington County Sheriff's Office with our public affairs team. We really just have one announcement from the public affairs team. We have the canine trials this upcoming weekend, May 17th, which is Saturday, May 17th, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. The actual canine event will take place at 11, but we do recommend getting there at 10 to enjoy all the other fun that will be happening. I will note parking will be a little bit different this year with the construction of the stadium going on. So if you can carpool or just try to get there early in advance. But it's a really fun, free family event. So please come to the Canine Trials this Saturday, May 17th. I'll pass it along to Corinne.
Thank you. Hi, Corinne.
Hello, thanks, Tabitha. I will keep things fairly brief as well. So Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue, we are the largest fire district in Oregon, serving 11 cities and parts of 4 counties, including the majority of Washington County. In 2024, we responded in our whole service area to just over 60,000 incidents. So that includes fire, emergency medical, and it's an all hazard response agency. So it could include water rescue, hazardous materials calls as well. And within Washington County, so just over 60,000 total, and Washington County itself was about 48,900. So the bulk of calls. The main thing that I wanted to touch on for folks is that starting mid-April, you may have started to see this if you were in the vicinity, but in preparation for the upcoming summer and wildfire season, in partnership with THPRD, we are doing wildland training for all of our crews out at Jenkins Estate. So if you're in the area of Jenkins Estate, you may notice extra apparatus parked along the road just outside of the estate. Or you may, if you're there, there are still portions of Jenkins Estate that are open to the public for trails. You may see crews pulling extensive amounts of hose line. They're practicing accessing water in areas that don't have hydrants. And they'll also be practicing and reinforcing skills in structural protection around the buildings on that property. So just for awareness, not to be alarmed if you're in the area and see some additional activity, but there are portions that are still open to the public throughout the duration. So that is starting in mid-April intermittently, but through the end of June. And we also are in the midst of one of our current recruit academies. So we have people that are working on training to become firefighters, and soon they will be sent out to our stations to continue their field training, continuing to work with field training officers and benchmark testing over the next several months. And I think I will stop there, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
I'm not seeing any hands popping up.
No problem. I'm glad to see everybody. It looks like a good turnout at Kenton Grange, and I will put my information in the chat if anybody wants to reach out about it. Oh, never mind.
Yeah. We're too irresponsible for chat. Ika Nancy is in the guest room. Can you promote her to panelist, please?
I think the presenters are already all promoted, Virginia. So I think you can just go on to the larger presentation.
All right, and I don't know who's starting the presentation, so whoever it is.
Virginia, hold on. We have Commander Wheaton in the room, so if anybody has questions for him.
Great. Get him in front of the camera, please.
Yeah. Right here.
There we go.
Hey, look at that.
Thank you.
Not to be confused with Commander John Bennett, who's on screen, he's going to give the next presentation today on our Center for really just a couple things from Patrol Command. So my job is to, I'm in patrol.
We can't hear him.
I'm in, are we muted?
No, this is
Thanks, that's better.
You got me now, Virginia?
Much better, thank you.
Oh, excellent. Okay, I'm Jim Wheaton. I'm the commander of patrol operations. So basically what that means when you see the deputies running cars, that's the division that I work in. And we're going to hear from Commander John Bennett. He's in a different division. He's going to give us a presentation. Really just a couple of quick updates from patrol, because this is, a lot of people here. Just want to give you guys a heads up. We are experiencing a difficult staffing situation. So just want you to know that in advance, that we are doing everything we can to get our deputies up staffed. I have 27 open seats in my division alone. Yeah, the jail is also very low, so it's just the time. A lot of agencies are experiencing that. We have an excellent plan. The sheriff has put recruitment and retention at the top of this, and we are working very hard to fill those spots. So just be patient with us as you call for services. We've still thankfully been able to maintain a high level of service, but the deputies out there are just feeling the squeeze. So we've been doing a lot of initiatives to beef up our retention efforts. Every time somebody leaves, for example, we can find out what we can do to make things better, that type of thing. So that's one. The other thing is, just to give you guys a heads up, we're going to be coming and giving presentations as we gear up for this upcoming local option levy. So we'll be giving some factual information out on that. So I encourage you to come out to the CPOs. We're going to do our best to reach out and give as much factual information for that. So it's one of the critical infrastructure pieces of our plans. With that, if you have any questions for me, either in the room or on the screen? Hearing none, seeing none, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
All right, go ahead, Virginia.
Well, I'm not sure who's going to start the presentation. I could say go ahead and call on your presenters if you'd like.
I'm not sure either, but Kristen Burke, Behavioral Health, Nick O'Cone from Washington County Behavioral Health, Commander John, the Sheriff's Office, and Allison Noyce, Executive Director of CODA. And they'll be speaking about the Center for Addictions Triage and Treatment program and buildings that will be coming soon. So take it away.
Thank you, Aika. And Kristen, do you want to go ahead and pull up the slideshow for us? Well, I will kick us off. Good evening, everybody. My name is Nick O'Cone, and I am the Division Manager with Behavioral Health with Washington County, and I'm here presenting with a handful of my colleagues today. I'll let them go ahead and take a quick moment to introduce themselves, and I'll have Kristen go last with that since she's pulling this up right now. So maybe you can go first, John, and then Allison, and then we'll have Kristen introduce herself as well.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, I'm John Bennett. I'm a commander with the Washington County Sheriff's Office, and I'm part of the Center for Addictions Triage and Treatment leadership team, and also the Public Safety Work Group, which is a spin-off group of that team.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for having us. My name is Allison Noyce. I'm the executive director at CODA. We are a large non-for-profit substance use disorder treatment provider here in the area. I'll tell you a little bit more about us when we get further along in the presentation.
And good evening, everyone. My name is Kristen Burke. I am a supervisor within the Behavioral Health Division at Washington County, and I have been the project lead on this project. And so very happy to be here tonight and to share some information about it.
Wonderful. Thank you all. Kristen, do you want to go to the next slide and we'll just dive into our presentation? Well, as we mentioned, today we're going to be talking, or tonight actually, we're going to be talking about the Center for Addictions Triage and Treatment, which we endearingly have been calling CAT for the last several years. We're going to be doing a real high-level overview today, talking about the project concept, the history of how we got here today, really detailing some of the community input that we've gotten that's helped design the project, and then diving into the services that we plan to offer, the design of the project, and then a timeline so y'all can know when we're planning on bringing this online. So that everybody knows, we might go through these slides kind of quick because we want to make sure that there's plenty of time for questions at the end. Whenever we talk about CAT, we like to talk about our approach and really the vision of how we got here. And we really started off with a vision of offering a program that would coordinate multiple supports across a continuum of services, really trying to co-locate as many critical substance use disorder services together as possible. And the slide really details some of the supports that we hope, that we will be offering, withdrawal management, sobering, residential services, peer services, amongst others. When designing CAT, we really looked at developing what we call a coordinated services model. At Washington County Behavioral Health, we don't do any of the treatment ourselves, but really contract with a number of providers and partners. And for CAT, what we really wanted to do was contract with a number of community organizations who specialize in each service area. There was no goal of having a single Jack or Jill of all trades to offer the entire continuum, but to really build a coordinated network of experts that would have relationships with each other to be able to offer this coordinated service model. Our focus really was to have a no wrong door approach and have multiple different points of entry and engagement for our community members who are seeking substance use disorder treatment services, really with the hope and goal of providing rapid access to multiple levels of care underneath the umbrella of this program. Now, when we talk about CAT, it's really important to focus on who we plan to be serving out of this program. And CAT is really intended to support adults who are 18 and older and who have problem substance use. We know that there's a tremendous amount of need in our community for youth substance use disorder treatment, and CAT itself will really be supporting the adults in our community who have these needs. We know that the vast majority of folks that we're going to be serving out of CAT in the array of services are going to be folks enrolled in Medicaid and our coordinated care organization partners. But we also know that we're going to be serving community members in Washington County who are uninsured, and also folks with commercial insurance as well. And one of the things that we always like to highlight when we're talking about who will be served is that the services offered at CAT are going to be voluntary in nature. This is not going to be a hold facility where we'll be having people under commitment or holds, but we'll be having people who are voluntarily wanting to engage in treatment and recovery services. This was really driven by a lot of community input that we'll be talking about in just a little bit. And with that said, it's really important also to note that we have been working really closely with our public safety partners to determine how to transport folks to CAT who can participate in services, but making sure that those folks do want to in fact voluntarily engage in the services and supports we'll be offering. Excuse me, long day. I'm stuttering a little bit. I apologize. So when we started this vision, it was really launched off looking at community need and the impact that substance use disorder was having on our community, really driven by a lack of services that we had locally in Washington County. For years and years, we've been sorely under-resourced as far as substance use disorder infrastructure, really characterized by the fact that there's no sobering currently in Washington County. We have no publicly funded withdrawal management, and we have very few substance use disorder residential beds. Currently in our county, the only beds available for women for residential treatment are for women and children located in far western Washington County. We know that this lack of infrastructure has been having a pretty significant impact on our community, including being a pretty significant contributing factor for homelessness. That said, we know that folks actually are receiving these supports, but it's not in the most clinically appropriate environment. So we really wanted to design an environment that was more clinically appropriate for the different services that I was just talking about than emergency departments or the jail where our community members are currently receiving them. Now, throughout this project and its development, we've received a lot of community feedback, and overwhelmingly to date, it's really what we've heard from our community is that this project is absolutely needed and that there's a lot of excitement that we're going to be bringing it on board. This slide details our project history, and this is no joke. We have been at this for almost 6 years now. And so we launched this concept with a lot of community input back in July of 2019. And then we took a tiny bit of a pause because a pandemic happened. And even during that the pandemic, we still soldiered on in a remote environment with a lot of work groups that we'll be talking about in a little bit, and dove into our feasibility study and our financial analysis during the pandemic period. Back in 22, we brought our architects on board and then started working closely with our construction partners in June of 2023. And we were really excited to begin construction last year in May of our Hillsborough site and then breaking ground in July at our Beaverton site. Now, when we talk about the project planning, it has been going on for nearly 6 years, which is incredible to say. And it's also really incredible to note that we have had over 250 community members really involved in providing input into this project. We've launched multiple work groups, and we've sustained those work groups during much of this period. And we've had an ongoing steering committee that's really had pretty broad representation that's been guiding some of the decision making related to this project. Throughout this project planning, with all of these different voices, we've been really trying to center folks with lived experience, both providers and community members in the development. So we hear from them as far as what the community need is and how to tailor the services and supports we're developing to meet that need as best as possible. So John, I'm going to hand this over to you to talk a little bit more about one of these work groups that we've had.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. So in about 2023, we formed a work group specifically focused on public safety and how public safety will interact with the CAT. The goal of that work group was to identify those opportunities to partnership and to partner and collaborate with that larger public safety community and the CAT. And our overall objectives were to connect those with substance abuse issues to treatment. And when we come across them, law enforcement is one of the most likely sources to come across folks who are experiencing substance use disorders. So we wanted to have a focus group to help with that. Additionally, the public safety work group has, and it continues to assist by contributing to training plans for not only law enforcement, but the whole public safety ecosystem, and CAT staff as well. The folks will be staffing the centers. Another key focus of the public safety work group was informing the operational policies and procedures within the centers. Everything from what admittance criteria looks like to property storage to proper comings and goings from the center as well. Additionally, we have been an asset in facilitating that open communication in support of that positive and mutually beneficial collaboration between CAP programs and the public safety system. We identified some areas of focus that we continue to embrace, and that's neighborhood safety for the neighbors around both centers. And what we did there was we used our expertise in public safety to consider and inform the overall CAT work group on how to mitigate safety concerns, how to mitigate impact on neighbors around the centers as well. We have been I think Allison can chime in here as well, but I think that one of the major things that the public safety work group has been focused on, Allison's been a part of that, is kind of that identifying, like I said, triage criteria. We've provided input for what interactions between CAT staff and law enforcement will look like, so that we can minimize those potential roadblocks as the centers open and as law enforcement interacts with the CAT. We have provided some information and been a resource for field assessments for triaging and transporting folks to the CAT for law enforcement when those situations do arise, and for responding to those acutely intoxicated in the community and how we may be able to serve them as well. Training is a big part. We are getting into training almost exclusively now as part of the public safety work group. And again, that's going to be training for CAT staff, for public safety staff, and for some of our other groups and community partners that will be interacting with CAT. We've also provided a little bit of environmental design input as well, as far as things like lighting, security at the center, safety for staff coming and going, safety for those seeking services that are coming and going, and then also what law enforcement response may look like to the center, to either center as well. Part of our public safety work group has included Beaverton Police Department. One of the centers is in Beaverton Police Department's jurisdiction. Hillsborough Police Department, another one of the centers is in Hillsborough. And the Beaverton one is like right at that kind of nexus of Beaverton, Hillsborough, and Washington County Sheriff's Office. So that's why we're all working collaboratively together to help guide the public safety piece of CAT. Forest Grove has been a key partner, and as well as our jail itself has been a key partner and will be a huge partner in the near future. As we come closer to the opening of the centers, we are considering expanding maybe that group to other public safety entities at a minimum for training and what interactions with CAT may look like. And with that, I will pass it on to Allison. Is that right? No,
I'll
Kristen.
take it over from here. Thanks, John. Appreciate that overview. I want to go back really quick because Nick talked about the community involvement and how we've really made a concerted effort to try and get a lot of input from our community members throughout this process. So I just wanted to share a little bit of how we approach trying to get information from not only stakeholders like providers and people with lived experience, but also the communities that these programs will operate within. So early in the project, we held focus groups, 9 different focus groups, really trying to get input about what the center needed to look like and what sort of services were really lacking. We also had 2 community meetings early on. We met with the neighborhood association for Five Oaks Triple Creek twice during this time, really making sure that they were aware that this project was happening. It was in their area. Each time we've had a community open house, we've sent out flyers to the community of the nearby neighbors so that they would be aware that they were happening and invite them to join us. And then we also had a community engagement work group that was really focused on trying to figure out how can we make sure that we're being effective about sharing information about the project to the community. It's very difficult to try and get information like this out. So we really wanted to focus on that. We've also have a website. I encourage everybody to take a look at our website. There's a lot of information on there. And then we've had regular newsletters that have been going out since 2021. I'm not going to go through and read all of this, but I just wanted to share some of the various partners that we specifically reached out to and asked for input about the project from them. So we really tried to think broadly about who we wanted to learn from and who would have a vested interest in the success of this project, and reached out to them and asked for their feedback. So we've had a lot of different community partners engaged from the very beginning. All of the information that we received from these organizations and individuals, we compiled in what we call our feasibility study. So the feasibility study was really a collection of the input about what the services needed to be, who we'd be serving, how the services are delivered. So when Nick talked about that all the services are voluntary, that was a really key component that was captured by our community, saying this is how it needs to operate. And all of those sorts of really foundational principles were compiled in a feasibility study, which was then presented to our Board of Commissioners for adoption. This is available online if you have any interest. It is an early kind of guidebook for us. And so clearly the project's evolved over time, but if you read it, you'll see the foundational principles that have carried through to the project to today. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the details of the center. We've talked a lot about the history and how we've approached it, but I want to give some information about what the center actually will look like and where it's located. Originally, we had conceptualized having a single building or single property campus, if you will, that had all of the different services contained in it. When we started actually looking for properties, it became really clear that we weren't going to find something that was zoned properly, located near public transportation, and had all the assets that we needed in a property for it to really work for the center. So we took a split campus approach. We really looked at the service array, split it by service type. So we split it into intensive services, which are really those kind of residentially based services that are very more intensive, and then more community-based services. So what you would think about as outpatient type services. And so with that, we were able to find two properties that really met the criteria that we had for these services. And so now I'll talk about what's contained in each of those. I'm going to start with the Hillsborough Recovery Center, which is on Elam Young Parkway, and then I'll kick it over to Allison to talk about the other one. So our Hillsborough site, we affectionately refer to this as our Hillsborough Recovery Center. And the other site we're referring to as the Beaverton Recovery Center. Those are the building names. It's still part of the CAP program. This is a building that we purchased. It's actually located right next to where quite a few of our county health and human services are already located, including our crisis services, the Hawthorne Walk-In Center. At this location, we really envision it to be kind of a service hub with lots of different community organizations, each doing what they do best, providing different services, but doing it in a very coordinated manner. So we have 6 different organizations that will be co-located under a single roof, but will all be working in a very unified sort of way. So the services that will be included in this building include outpatient treatment services, all of those being provided in Spanish or English. Those will be offered by Solutions Group Northwest. We're going to have a peer recovery center in the building that'll be operated by the Mental Health and Addictions Association of Oregon. They offer that service in other areas as well. Like I said, we have our crisis services, the Hawthorne Walk-In Center. We felt it was really important, since that really is a front door for many people to access behavioral health services, to co-locate that as part of the CAP project. The county behavioral health program will be located there as well. We do a lot of care coordination, protective services investigations, civil commitment investigations. So those services will be available on site. And then we have 2 auxiliary services. So Virginia Garcia has offered to provide some healthcare supports for individuals that are served at CAT. They won't operate a standalone clinic. They'll be able to serve people who are part of the CAT project, but it won't be like a separate primary care clinic. So they'll really be supporting the other programs and services by being able to help attend to the healthcare needs of the people served at CAT. And likewise, we know that a lot of people who are struggling with substance use disorders often have housing instability as well. So we felt it was really important to have an organization that can really help connect our folks into the homeless services system as well. So Project Homeless Connect joined the project as well. Again, that's not a standalone service. While they'll have a staff presence on site, they'll only be taking referrals from other CAP providers. And then it won't be a drop-in place for people to seek homeless services. Really, the core of the program is about supporting people with behavioral health conditions, and they will be able to help support to make sure that we can help them access the different services they need in other systems. So this is how the building is laid out. Again, it's really considered as being like a community center with all of these different organizations, each having their own suites, but all under the same roof. So going back to what Nick said earlier about the idea of a no wrong door approach, we really want people to be able to simply enter the building, ask for help. Maybe no one asked for help, just maybe even just wanting to check it out, but have it be a welcoming place that people can feel like this maybe is the place that they can get the services they need. We tried really hard to make it a warm and inviting environment. And so this is a rendering of what it will look like. It actually looks a lot like this right now, but it'll be even better pretty soon, because we're building in a lot of art, a lot of focus on bringing in nature into the building, and really creating, like I said, a warm and respectful environment for our community members who are seeking help. With that, I'm going to ask Allison to talk about our other site, the Beaverton Recovery Services.
Rito, thank you. Thanks for having me again. My name's Allison Noyce. Just very briefly about CODA, we have been exclusively a provider of substance use disorder services in Oregon for about 55 years now. We have services and programs that span the Tri-County area and the North Coast of Oregon. I believe it's been at least 20 years now that we have had some level of service in Washington County. So I, having been with CODA for quite a while now, just really quite excited to be part of this project. And before I say any more, I have to say in front of everybody what a tremendous job the Department of Health and Human Services has done to convene this project, lead us for 6 years with a real vision. And it is very exciting to think we are very close to opening these doors. So this is a rendering of what the facility is going to look like when it's finished. Currently, you may have noticed the picture of the previous WACA building, as I've come to understand it. That's in this building, and then another new construction right alongside it, which will produce something really pretty impressive. So next slide. So the Beaverton Recovery Center, There's the WACA building. To Kristen's point, substance use disorder services tend to be organized in what we call levels of care and varying degrees of intensity. So the most intensive, highest levels of care, if you will, are those that tend to operate 24/7. They are places where individuals reside for short periods of time to get really to be sort of in a safe and protected environment while receiving services. So the Beaverton Recovery Center location, there will be an array of these intensive sort of facility-based services, if you will. The most intensive of those services is what we call withdrawal management. It's frequently referred to as detox. This is a capacity for 16 individuals of separate dormitories, but there will be male identifying and female identifying capacity for 16. Withdrawal management, it's really exclusively a medical intervention and ideally a stepping stone to a next level of care where somebody will get more targeted but an extended stay. So withdrawal management really is about medical safety. It is about having somebody with 24/7 nursing care really monitored to ensure they can get through those very first few days of withdrawing from whatever substance they've been using under medical supervision. The next level of care from there that ideally someone who might be in detox would transition into is residential treatment. This is what often people think of when they think about substance use disorder care in general. Again, it's 24/7, it's facility based. It will also be separated by gender identifying. There's 24 bed capacity for each gender. Residential services are, I would say, typically a 45 to 60, sometimes as long as a 90-day stay. And this is really what we talk about as the real entry point to recovery for a lot of people. It is it's not a spin cycle, basically, right? We talk about residential treatment really being a foundational place where people begin recovery, they learn skills, they start developing networks of people who are supportive of their recovery. And then optimally, individuals finish residential and transition out into intensive or outpatient care, ideally in a sober, supportive housing environment. The last services that are less intensive are sobering. Sobering is really simply a safe place for somebody who's acutely intoxicated to be when otherwise they would be potentially at risk to themselves or somebody else by just simply being intoxicated in public. As Kristen mentioned, sobering is new for Washington County. It's pretty new for a lot of communities, but we really approach it as though it's this really potentially optimal entry point for somebody to say, today is the day that I'm ready for something different. So that will be part of this facility as well. So beds is sort of a misnomer. People don't tend to stay overnight. They're usually stays of just a few hours, but it is really an opportunity to bring somebody to a place where they're safe, where they can be monitored as needed, and ideally where we can help them transition to a place to really begin treatment. The transitional supports are sort of the back end, if you will, of the Beaverton Recovery Center. These are really just as needed spaces where if somebody is waiting to transition into, let's say, supported housing, or if they're moving into a different part of the community and they need time because their housing isn't arranged yet, we'll have this opportunity to really move folks out of residential treatment, keep them in a safe place to stay while they then transition into the next place. So again, that's, if you sort of think back to that slide just a second ago, it's a lot of services. It's a lot of 24/7 services. But really the work that we're doing right now is designing all of these programs so that they really integrate with each other. So people to that no wrong door position, people can come in through any entry point and really have an opportunity to move and access a full array of services that they may be interested in. So Yes, I don't think I need to speak that much to the square footage. It's big. Next slide. I'm sure the construction is moving along so quickly, it doesn't even look like this anymore, but it's been such an exciting thing to watch this building progress, sometimes on what feels like a daily basis. This is just a bit of a representation of what an active construction site it has been.
So thank you, Allison. I'll jump in here real quick and just kind of wrap up our presentation with a quick review of the timeline. We are fastly approaching the opening of our Hillsborough site. In fact, right now we're just putting the final finishing touches on the building, and then at the end of the month, the county behavioral health staff and our Hawthorne Walk-in Center, our crisis services, will be moving into the new building. Really, the building will open in June, when our other service providers, Mental Health and Addiction Association of Oregon, Solutions Group, and Project Homeless Connect, will all start their services on July 1. So that building is a bit ahead of the other buildings, simply because the renovation wasn't as extensive. The other building, the one in Beaverton, the renovation was vastly more involved and extensive, and therefore the construction period was an additional 6 months long. And so we expect that site will be fully constructed, completed, ready for occupancy in the fall. And then we're going to have a period of time with some training for staff. We want to make sure that they have plenty of time to be in the building, learn how to navigate the building and everything. And so our goal is to start offering services in the Beaverton site in November. So it's wrapping up very quickly. As Nick said, we've been in the project for 6 years now. And so it's really kind of this race to the end is happening so fast. With that, I wanted to see if this is actually the time that we can open up for questions. I'll stop sharing my screen, and we'd be happy to answer any questions people might have.
Ika, did you get questions submitted by folks beforehand?
Just a couple, but it looks like Nancy, go ahead.
Hi, this is Nancy Hicklett. I had, I think, emailed in a couple of questions, but I think this is an amazing service that is getting set up. But I did have some thoughts thinking of it from a neighborhood impact. And so I'm curious, do you have any guess based on data that's in the county right now about how many clients you would be serving on a monthly basis? It seems like in the different programs, do you think you're going to be half capacity or full capacity even within the first 6 months? Or I realize that's a guess, but
Yeah, I'm going to actually ask Allison if she can speak. Now, the one thing I want to highlight is that CODA operates residential treatment services down in Tigard. They offer residential treatment services out in Gresham. So they have a lot of experience in offering services like this. So Allison, can you speak to just the ramp up that we've talked about, that, we're not going to be full capacity on day one. We know that. But then also, can you touch on perhaps how CODA has operated in Tigard, which is really very much a residential area?
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to see if I could pencil out some quick math here, but I'm not confident I can do that this quickly. So we will be opening the detox and the residential services concurrently in November. The goal, because we want really people to be able to move across those two levels of care pretty seamlessly. So The current trajectory is to assume we're targeting 6 months before we would even assume we'd get at full capacity. And even then, I'm going to assume detox probably runs closer to, if that's a 16-bed capacity on a day-to-day basis, that's probably going to hover between 80 and 90% of that. And our residential, we think we will maintain at about a 90% occupancy, that based on what we see in our other programs of similar size, we think that's reasonable. It's hard for me to think about month over month how many people we might serve, given the different lengths of stay. As I mentioned, the detox length of stay, an average, I would say, is 4 to 5 days. So if we're running 12 beds at a time, we will see a fair number of folks in and out of there on a monthly basis. Residential will be a little slower. I would say I would imagine we're bringing in 3 to 4 new people a week, assuming people are sort of staying the optimal length of time there. To Kristen's point, we have operated our Tigard residential facility, which has also been a partnership with Washington County for quite some time. It is in essentially a residential area. We're alongside a church who actually has been really tremendous partners to us over the years. It's all of our services. We work very hard to be good neighbors and really respectful of the environment that we're in. That is really a big part of the foundational skills that we're helping the individuals we treat to sort of develop, is really sort of learning to occupy the world in a different way. So yeah, to that end, I just want to really sort of emphasize what an important part of our work being a good neighbor and a good community member is.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course.
I haven't heard, this is Jody Wilson out at Kenton Grange. I haven't heard anything about funding. I mean, that's a lot of money that has been accumulated and used. And I'm just wondering where the funding all came from.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So we started the project with some seed money that came from some old Medicaid reserves that the county had held that had to be used for behavioral health services. And we wanted to use those dollars in a way that actually created new infrastructure in our community. So that was about $25 million. The whole project is about $62.3 million. And that includes some of the development costs. It's not all construction costs, but some startup costs as well. Opioid settlement dollars are a big piece of this project. Washington County will receive tens of millions of dollars in opioid settlement dollars, and the Board of Commissioners have dedicated 100% of the opioid dollars towards this project. And that is really what's going to allow us to, do the capital construction and provide an operating buffer for any sort of ups and downs that might happen with varying levels of funding of Medicaid and commercial insurance. The providers will be billing commercial insurance, they will be billing Medicaid. And so a lot of the revenue for the operating is like other health services, where they will be billing health plans in order to receive the operating revenue they need. But we will be supplementing it to some degree with other funding sources such as state general fund and opioid settlement dollars. And I will also say that some of our health plans also contributed dollars to the project. Care Oregon, Health Share of Oregon, Providence Health Plans. We've had a lot of great partners. We also did receive a little bit of Measure 110 dollars for the project, one-time funding for capital. What I will say, just it's something that was really important to the commissioners is that no county general fund dollars went into this project. It was really all fundraised and contributions from health systems to really bring this to fruition.
I see a question in the Q&A, which I will read out, if that's okay. How does the transitional housing planned outside Oak Hills area in Beaverton at the prior Doubletree fall into this model? I don't know if any of you can speak to that at all. And it goes on to say, what is the safety plan for that location with long-term transition to that location? That's more of a housing facility. It doesn't really have anything to do with addiction. Nick, do you know anything about the?
I really would not be able to speak to what those plans were. I would have to lean on my colleagues with housing.
Okay, well,
that
it's kind of in CPO 1 and 7. It's close between them, so maybe we'll follow up with the joint meeting on that. People are concerned. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, Virginia, this is Bruce.
Okay.
Hi, Bruce Bartlett. I first got involved with the county in behavioral health when I joined the Behavioral Health Council. And in those days, the concern was trying to get parity between mental health and physical health. It was an uphill battle with the legislature, and money kept getting cut. And for this to be the result in only 6 years is just flat out astounding to me. And I am so proud of everybody. Kristen Burke, you have been instrumental in guiding this forward. And Nick, you have assumed the helm of behavioral health just wonderfully. I also served for 30 years on the Behavioral Health Council and 12 years the Sheriff's Advisory Council. And the sheriff involved in this degree is just so encouraging and affirming that our system of government is actually working to solve problems, identify and solve problems in a compassionate way. And for the presenters, I wanted to show you just the audience here. The camera doesn't really get it, but there's one side of the room. You can see all those people who are paying attention and listening happily. And here's the other side of the room with all those people. So you have, this is just an incredible thing, and I'm so proud to be a member of Washington County, and I so fully endorse what we're able to do when we all pull together and work as a family. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruce.
really good to see you, Bruce.
I have another question. We went to a banquet put on by the Public Safety Chaplaincy for the greater Portland area, I think it was. Will there be a place where public safety chaplains will have access or be a resource, anything like that?
John, I think that one really falls to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I was trying to come up with an intelligent answer for you. Right now, there's no plans for public safety chaplaincies to be involved. Typically, the public safety chaplains provide support to us, to the public safety members. They do occasionally call out as a kind of a stopgap, if you will, to critical incidents, but they are so tapped that I don't know that they would have the bandwidth to be able to even participate in something like that. I don't know any plans for any other faith-based services at any of the centers yet. I don't think we're quite there yet. But as far as the public safety specific chaplaincies, I don't see a footprint there for that right now.
Well, Nancy.
So I just have one more. I was talking with a CPO neighbor the other day, and they had commented that they used to live down off of 173rd near the middle school, and we're just wondering if because of the proximity to the Beaverton site, if there had been discussions with the school district about any additional actions that the school district could take, or things just to prevent any unforeseen and possibly negative interactions between anyone who may not be welcome at the CAT site, but still be in the vicinity. And thinking particularly of folks maybe that are selling drugs or that are targeting individuals who may be coming or leaving the vicinity. So just a question. And mostly it has to do is, has there been concerted discussions between the school district, and have they been involved in that?
So I'm struggling to answer that because I know that we did reach out to the school district earlier on in the project, and it was during a lot of our outreach period. And I want to say that we did invite them to our community engagement work group. And I can't remember exactly if it wasn't that they didn't have the capacity or yeah, so I don't want to give any misinformation. So that's why I'm kind of struggling to answer. That said, it has been on our radar that there's a middle school, or yeah, I believe it's a middle school nearby, and we have had a lot of conversations around just the management of the area around the space, making sure that our clients can safely go to and from the center, helping our folks get to their next place, whether that's by us using Uber or helping them get to the next place, and not just giving a bus ticket. Really, the idea of assisting with that next step to make sure that people are not just walking out the center and then, they're off to the next place. It's about us making sure that they get to the next place through a whole lot of different avenues and strategies of using different supports and that sort of thing. Allison, I'm wondering if you can talk about whether you've had any challenges of people dealing drugs outside of any of the residential treatment centers that you operate.
No, it's a great question. I really appreciate it. I'll be honest, and I don't mean to sound dismissive, because I absolutely understand the concern, but honestly, we don't. I think to Kristen's point, the goal is to really make sure people transition successfully out of the facility. So those are really planned moments. And even when they are, if somebody's leaving sort of prematurely, if you will, the intention is never to linger, I guess. So folks who are sort of departing our services earlier than we would recommend generally keep moving, if to be really candid. I think the other element here that gives me a lot of optimism is simply the relationship that we have been working on with public safety for as long as we have. I think part of that, John spoke to the training and the policy development that they've been able to help us with, but really this is also a lot about goodwill and maintaining an eye in the community and being able to keep bi-directional communication open. If someone's engaged in criminal activity away from the facility, there are criminal consequences for that, right? Or there are public safety interventions there. And so what I'm hopeful about is that we have established, again, good communication, a healthy amount of respect. And if there are situations that come up in the community that we wonder if they have a relationship to the services that we're providing, we're going to root that out, I think, pretty quickly and move to solution. Again, this we know that addictions treatment actually makes our communities healthier. So we come from that position, and we really want to make sure we represent that to everybody in the neighborhood.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate your answers.
I'm John Wilson here at the Kenton Grange. Thank you for a superb presentation. Here's my question. I take it that this array of superb services at the CAT Center are aimed at substance abuse, primarily drug or alcohol addictions, and not mental, emotional health, suicide. It's primarily substance abuse. Is that correct?
Yes, I think, I will say you can't always make a sort of neat and tidy differentiation from one to the other. People who have chronic substance use disorders often experience trauma and anxiety and depression in their lifetime. But our services, the services CODA's delivered for decades, have always been specialized to target the substance use disorder itself. So the work that we're doing at the Beaverton Recovery Center, I can say, is not, again, these aren't people who are on any kind of commitment or involuntary hold. This is not a facility that is designed for people who are really psychiatrically unstable. So I don't know if Kristen wants to add a little bit about the Hillsborough site.
Yeah, so at the Hillsborough site, we are going to have our behavioral health crisis team located there. So that is the team that is our mobile crisis team that can go out into the community, as well as our Hawthorne Walk-In Center, which is a drop-in place for people who are seeking help for any behavioral health condition, whether it's substance use or mental health, any age range. You can be basically infant through older adult. So rapid access to behavioral health care, mental health care is available at Hawthorne. So there is a component that's already existing that is woven into it. But a lot of the goal of Hawthorne also is to identify when there is a substance use component to a person's presentation, and then help get them connected into the CAT services as well.
Any more questions in the room? We're not seeing anything online. I guess we'll just thank you very much for the presentation. Nancy, did you have anything from CPO 7 that you wanted to share?
To share in general, or about the particular, about the presentation?
To share with CPO 7 people. I don't have anything for CPO 1 right now.
No, I think we're good.
Okay. Well, thank you all for coming. Thank you very much for the excellent presentation, and thanks to all of the participants. What? Who's talking? Okay. And with that,
Yes.
Thank you so
For
much.
having us, everybody.
yeah,
Thank you.
have a great evening. Thanks.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Bye.
And we did live stream this to the CPO 1 YouTube channel, so it will be up there. And and then it's also recorded for all the other CPOs to post. Good night, everybody.